Welcome to an episode of Storytime Digital Media. This is Megan Fox. I'm here with Kevin DuJan, and we are talking today about SLAPPs and when public officials attack. And a SLAPP, for your information, is a strategic lawsuit against public participation. And today we're going to talk in detail about what is a SLAPP, why are SLAPPs filed, and why they are so dangerous to the Republic. And in recent news, Kraft and Kirk Allen from the Edgar County Watchdogs, who do a lot of work in the state of Illinois, bringing to the public attention to the corruption in local governments. They have been sued for $8 million by a public official, Carla Burkhardt, who is on the board for the College of Dupage Foundation, who has been implicated in some shady dealings and no bid contracts. Kevin, why don't you tell us a little bit about the situation with College of Dupage Foundation and Carla Burkhardt?
Sure. Now, first of all, this SLAPP, it's spelled S-L-A-P-P, so two P's, double the P. It's not like the slap that Zsa Zsa Gabor did to that police officer in Beverly Hills, 30 years ago. God, I'm dating myself this morning. But this is a SLAPP in the other sense of S-L-A-P-P. And what this is in my opinion, a sick thing that various government and public officials use as a weapon against people. And so there's a long history of this being used in our country. There's a great book that was written by George Pring and Penelope Kanan years ago that's called SLAPPs, and it's Getting Sued for Speaking Out. And what this basically is, in my opinion, is kind of like these elected officials think that they are royalty, that they are aristocrats. And in this book on SLAPPs, it's a wonderful read available on Amazon. Everyone should read it, really. It's fascinating because in the very earliest days of our country, back in the 1700s, right when we were a new nation and we had this Constitution and this Bill of Rights that had this freedom of speech, that was such a unique concept in the world. And elected officials here in what used to be the colonies and was now, the United States was created, they were not used to a place where there was freedom of speech and that people were allowed to criticize judges and justices of the peace and the governor and the mayor and whoever. And these elected officials didn't like that. They didn't like when people would ridicule them or mock them or call them out on bad behavior. And so they tried using lawsuits as weapons against people. So if someone criticized the justice of the peace for doing something wrong, the justice of the peace would sue that person because they still had that mindset of the old world and of royalty and aristocracy and all of that. And surprisingly, the courts really took a fast rebuke of that and really shamed these elected officials in a sense of, how dare you do this? That this is what America is about. It's about free speech, and our First Amendment right to petition is one of the most important rights that we have, and it's what separates us from England or, heck, even Canada, where these elected officials are not powerful aristocrats. And so the SLAPP movement that first started in the early days of the country, that was ended very quickly because the courts were not having any of that. And it wasn't until, the 1970s that these terrible public officials started trying this stuff again. It had a resurgence between the 70s and the 90s, and I think it kind of went away for a little while again when different states, including Illinois, came up with what's called anti-SLAPP laws, and that is meant to prevent these lawsuits or kill these lawsuits early when public officials go after a critic. But right now we're in a really weird period where this is all coming up again, and you're seeing this across the country where it's a new phenomenon where I think it's very spoiled people who are on different boards or work for different public entities. You see a lot of these people in the suburbs, and what I think is happening is a lot of them are women who are kind of prima donna women who are affiliated with some kind of a public entity, and they don't like being criticized. And because they don't like being criticized, they come after their critics. And I don't know, I think it might be.
And I also, Kevin, I want to point out that in all the SLAPPs that we have investigated and looked into, they always go after them with the charge of defamation. Defamation is like this cover-all charge that these public officials will use to sue. And so it's always under defamation. And defamation is a word that scares people. You know, nobody wants to be sued for defamation because it sounds like a really scary, horrible thing. But that's the only recourse they have, and that's how they bring it to court. They say, I've been defamed because, you know, this person is saying nasty things about me. And even if those nasty things are true, doesn't matter. You know, they think they have a right not to be spoken about, not to be talked about. They think they have a right to be a public official, to be in the spotlight, to say whatever they want to say, but not hear response from people. And they call that defamation. They call your opinion of their behavior, acting outside the law or, you know, lying in public, they call that defamation. Have you seen any other SLAPP suits that were sued for, that were under other categories than defamation? Because I haven't.
Well, it's pretty much just defamation, but they also sometimes do other things, like they do, you know, copyright infringement. So if in an article, a writer uses a picture of someone, so this is a public official person, they'll use a picture, that public official will then sue for copyright and claim that they have a copyright of that picture. So it's little things like that. The other thing that was interesting, what you were saying about you know, these lawsuits, and they sue for the defamation, and it's something that they don't even think they're going to win on, but they just file the lawsuit to scare the person.
Well, and to cost them considerable amount of money. When you are sued, you know, you don't get to go to a judge right away and say, hey, this is ridiculous, this is America, and it's my right to say what I said. And then the judge says, you're right, it's a SLAPP, we throw it out. That doesn't happen. You have to get a lawyer. You have to go through all the motions. You have to go, you know, it's an extensive process. You know, we've been involved in a SLAPP for the last 2 years. This is not something that you can just, you know, say, hey, I didn't do it, and it goes away. When you sue someone, they are forced to defend themselves, and that in itself is a punishment. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to silence other people so that other people will think twice before speaking out against a public official who has more money and more power than they do.
And you need to think about that unbalanced scales, if you will, that the public official has all of these resources through the public body. Like a lot of these people, when they sue someone, you know, the public body will find a way to indemnify that person or to supply that person with lawyers for free. Or oftentimes different organizations that have a policy interest in this SLAPP lawsuit will secretly fund, you know, the lawsuit for the plaintiff, or do a GoFundMe fundraising thing for the plaintiff, where the SLAPP lawsuit really is kind of a proxy for something that the organization wants or the government entity wants. So they'll have this public official come out and sue someone, and the whole point of it is to scare other people away so they're not looking into things, they're not criticizing things, because the public body wants to just spend the taxpayers' money on crazy things. And people who sit on these different boards, they want to enrich themselves for being on the board. They don't like when people in the public start putting in FOIA requests and looking at contracts or looking at the spending reports to see where the money's going. They want to stop that. And the public body wants to stop that because all of them are having such a good time doing whatever terrible things they're doing that they don't want people looking into it. And the lawsuit is meant to scare everyone away. They don't believe they'll win the lawsuit. They file these things knowing that the lawsuit will either be dismissed, or they hope that the person who is sued will be stupid enough to just settle just to make it go away. You know, some people are like that.
Now, let's talk about that for a minute. I mean, we know they don't intend to win because the law isn't on their side. But of course, the saying is, you know, you can sue a ham sandwich. You can get a lawyer. If you can find a lawyer to sue, you can sue for anything. And so what they intend to do is get a settlement. And because most people do not have the funds to go on with a 2-year lawsuit or however long they drag it out, most people will settle a defamation SLAPP suit right away for whatever the terms, just to make it go away, because it will cost them less money than having to litigate and go through all the motions.
And these lawyers that, represent these people in these SLAPP suits, they always seem to me to be very disreputable. That, if you watch television shows like The Practice or LA Law or whatever, there are always those slimeball lawyers that, like the ambulance chaser kind of people that just file lawsuits that have no merit and they know won't win, but they do it just because they're rolling the dice that the other side will settle and, they'll eke out something. So these are lawyers that...
We have anti-SLAPP legislation in Illinois, and there's anti-SLAPP legislation all over the country, but what it doesn't include, if you are found in violation of anti-SLAPP, then you are responsible for the attorney's fees for the person you sued. But what it doesn't include, and what it should include, are punishments for the attorneys who brought the SLAPP in the first place. That would stop all of this, because the attorneys then would have a detriment against them for filing something like this. And they wouldn't be so willing to just willy-nilly file it just because they think they can get a settlement out of it. Am I right?
Oh, I agree with that. I think that you should be given, if you're an attorney, you should be given one strike. So you do this one time and you get rebuked by the judge. And then if you do this ever again, you should lose your law license and never be allowed to practice again. However, think about this though.
Or it will never work.
The people who write these laws, like who write the anti-SLAPP law, what do you think their profession was before they became an elected official?
Right. Most of them are lawyers. And also, let's be real, most of them are on the side of the slappers, because most of them are the type of people who do things like this. They're major ego people in politics. They have big egos in the first place, or they wouldn't be in the position in the first place. And they don't like it when people exercise their First Amendment rights to criticize them. It's very rare when you find a politician who really truly will sit and listen to a town hall where people tell them how terrible they think they are, and they actually just go with it and say, well, it's a free country. Most of them want to lash out and hurt people who are against them and who speak out against them, which is a very un-American thing to do. But those are the types of people we're talking about. So yeah, it's not like they write laws that will come back to hurt them. That doesn't happen.
Oh, and anyone who has ever been a lawyer never wants to take away another lawyer's livelihood. Right. Even if they're on opposing sides, even on the same case, the plaintiff versus the defendant's attorneys, they're all in their own little club though at the end of the day. So, they all know they're going to work together in the future, or they never want to burn any bridges with one another. And I think because, they went to law school themselves and they had to study for the bar, they just think that, oh, well, that should never be taken away from someone. So someone should never be able to be prevented from practicing in the future. But I think if these people file these lawsuits just as like a shakedown or an extortion gambit to, file this, even though they know it's meritless because they hope the other side is going to settle or whatever, I think they should lose their ability to practice. I think that is just such an abuse of process and abuse of the system and such an insult to our First Amendment right to petition. But, getting to the specific example of this Carla Burkhardt woman and the Edgar County Watchdogs, I have to say I've been studying these SLAPP lawsuits for a good 2 years now. I mentioned I'm a big fan of that George Pring and Penelope Kanan book. This woman, Carla Burkhardt, is one of the worst slappers who I've ever seen. So, Pring and Kanan, they call people who file these SLAPP lawsuits, they call them slappers. So like a flapper, but a slapper. And this woman, Carla Burkhardt, I think she's one of the worst slappers I've seen.
Okay, I've put up a picture of her so everybody can see who we're talking about here. This is one of Carla Burkhardt's photos from Facebook that she actually chose to publish. I know it's hard to believe, but this is one of her preferred poses, I guess. I think she's watched one too many episodes of, not American Idol. America's Next Top Model. Here she is practicing her favorite model pose. Carla Burkhardt, everyone.
Yeah, and this is her, how she chooses to represent herself. She's laying on the floor with her legs in a strange position, twisted like a contortionist. It's bizarre. But this
I'm sorry, every time I see this picture, I just can't stop laughing. Oh my.
This is this woman who claims she owns this graphic design business called Hurricane Graphics.
Now spell hurricane.
So this must drive people who write about her crazy, because spell check will automatically want to correct it, because it's not like hurricane like the storm or the drink. It's spelled HERRICANE. So she did it like hurricane, like girl power, hurricane, roll on the floor in my yellow pants. So stupid.
Oh.
So, but what's really weird is, I was curious after I saw that she had sued the Edgar County Watchdogs, and I wanted to see, what kind of work does this Hurricane Graphics do? It doesn't have a website, unless I'm just not good at finding it. I looked and I looked and I couldn't find a website for Hurricane Graphics. I did find a Yellow Pages listing for it, but the Yellow Page listing sends you to something called Chicago Shriner or something like that they sell pens and measuring cups. And it looks like it's like a virus or scam website. You know those fake websites sometimes you get redirected to? You click on something and
right.
It's like a website in Asia that they just have as like a fake thing. That's what this thing looks like. So
let me just, for the short of it, we're going to get to the details, but this woman, Carla Burkhardt, the woman rolling around on the floor in her yellow pants, sued John Kraft and Kirk Allen of Edgar County Watchdogs for reporting that her company, Hurricane Graphics, which we can't find any website for, Hurricane Girl Power Graphics, got a contract for like $90,000 at the College of Dupage, and she sits on the College of Dupage Foundation board. It was a no-bid contract. She signed the contract as the architect, and she's suing them for saying that. And she also got another contract shortly after that for $16,000 for more work, for more graphic design sign work. So this woman now has basically just sued John and Kirk for telling the story about what she did and who she is.
Right. So there's it's something called the Daily Herald. There's an article written by Sophia Merchant. And the article is called Subpoenas Seek College of DuPage Records on Bruder Foundation Board Member. And it's actually on Bruder, Foundation Board Member. Bruder was the former College of DuPage president, Robert Bruder. And so he is involved in another situation and got fired and, did bad things himself. But the writer of this article for the Daily Herald, she covered Bruder, but she also covered this Carla Burkhardt woman. And the article talks about subpoenas being issued. A subpoena in February of 2015 requested copies of all the college's employment agreements and contracts with College of DuPage Foundation board member Carla Burkhardt and her company Hurricane Graphics. Among the requests, the subpoena called for any licensing documents provided to the college that show Burkhardt or Hurricane Graphics is licensed as a design firm or architect, and copies of any invoices for a 2012 contract forwarded or awarded to Hurricane Graphics by the college. So one of the big issues here is that Carla Burkhardt signed a contract with the College of DuPage that was specifically an American Institute of Architects architect contract. So she signed this, and the contract on every page is saying this is an agreement between the college and the architect. And she signed her name to that, and then later she's trying to claim, oh well, the College of DuPage just uses that contract for anybody. It's just a boilerplate thing. But Megan, that's not true, because that American Institute of Architects, it's a very specific thing. If they want to have just a regular generic boilerplate boilerplate contract with this Carla Burkhardt woman to do graphic design, they must have 100 or 200 vendors that they deal with every day, that they have a catering contract, or they have a contract for, delivery of water to the, office water cooler, all that kind of, the Culligan man. Why didn't they use the Culligan man contract with this woman for her graphic design thing? Instead, they chose to use this architect contract. And what you find out is that it seems the reason they did that is because architect contracts don't have to go out for competitive bid. So if you're hiring an architect, you don't have to go through the usual process of asking for RFPs. Those are requests for proposal. When a government entity is going to spend money to create something, to do signage for an event or whatever, they have to put out bids for that, and they have to get at least one or two, in my understanding, proposals from different companies that would say, well, we'll do the job for $20,000. The other company says they'll do it for $18,000, and then the board of directors has a choice, and typically they are supposed to choose the least expensive option. So when it's an architect, though, for whatever reason, the law in Illinois allows them to circumvent that competitive bid process and give the contract to whatever architect they want. So do you see here how that looks so shady, that they use this architect contract for this Carla Burkhardt woman, but she's not an architect, and it seems like they did that just so they can circumvent that bidding process.
Oh, yeah. And let's get into some of the specifics that are in the lawsuit. This woman is suing John and Kirk for $8 million. And one of the things that she is claiming is that she never signed the contract as the architect. That's what she's claiming. But if you go to hillbuzz.org right now, there's the top story is about Carla Burkhardt. You will see, and I'm trying to figure out how to screen share that here also. I think I'll try. But if you can go there, you can see that the contract she signed has architect and owner written all over it and her name signed on the line. But she is honestly trying to sue and say, I don't know if she's saying that wasn't me or that it doesn't say architect, but it does clearly in black and white, and you can see it right on hillbuzz.org if you go up to the top story.
Yeah, Megan, I'm trying to understand that myself. In the lawsuit that she filed against the Edgar County Watchdogs, she makes this really weird claim that, oh no, she didn't represent herself as an architect. But if you look, all she does is sign page after page after reading the word architect.
Right, she signed her name to it.
And on the very end, it says, this is an agreement between the College of DuPage and the architect, and she writes her name down as the president of that Hurricane Graphics thing.
And did I misread, or did I see that? I think I read it like 8 times, that she's also claiming there was never any contract at all. She's claiming there was no contract, I think. That's what it sounds like. And yet here's the contract in black and white with her signature on it.
Well, okay, so here's some things that get interesting. So on Illinois Review, there's an article that says GOP lawmakers propose 6 bills in response to College of DuPage scandal. So this is from March of 2015. So this College of DuPage stuff has been going on for a while. And there's issues with that Robert Bruder, who was the president I mentioned, he got fired. And there was a big outcry that they were trying to give him a $763,000 settlement or severance or whatever. Right. And in that article, it talks about Carla Burkhardt. So there's more money involved in this than just that $90,000 that was mentioned and the $16,000 that we mentioned. Here's what Illinois Review said. They said, just last week, we learned of yet another instance of questionable financial decision-making at College of DuPage, when the Chicago Tribune broke a story about College of DuPage Foundation board member Carla Burkhardt, who received a no-bid $630,000 contract for sign design and installation work at the college. So this is a press release that was made by Representative Gene Ives from Wheaton. And she's been petitioning Speaker Mike Madigan to schedule immediate hearings into what lawmakers feel is this misuse of public funds. And part of this is the stuff that this Carla Burkhardt is involved in. It said the contract made reference to Burkhardt's experience as an architect when in fact she is not an architect and her firm does not do architectural work. So, okay, this is Representative Jean Ives from Wheaton. She's going to the Illinois Speaker of the House talking about Carla Burkhardt having this architect contract, but she's not an architect. So Megan, my question is, how, even though I've been studying these SLAPPs for a while and you and I have been studying Illinois politics for a long time, sometimes I'm left speechless by some of the things these people do. I don't understand how this woman
I know.
can sue.
Me either. I'm trying to get it up on the screen share right now, so just hang in there. I'm going to show you the contract in just a minute. It's in black and white. The woman signed her name next to architect. It's written all over the contract. How did she find a disreputable lawyer to take this case? How did even the worst lawyer on earth, how could even the worst lawyer on earth take a look at that contract and then write a lawsuit that says, my client never signed any such, there's no such contract?
Well, clearly this Representative Jean Ives, she's seen it and she has a problem with it because she's talking in the Illinois State House to the Speaker of the Illinois House about this woman not being an architect and signing architect contracts. I just don't understand how. I really think this woman's lawyer needs to be disbarred for filing this lawsuit because clearly everyone in the world can see that she has signed this contract. And this contract represents her as an architect.
Yes, she has signed the contract representing herself as an architect. Here it is. Here it is. I'm going to share it with you right now. Hold on to your shorts, people, because here's what people can do. This woman actually can sue you for saying she signed a contract as an architect when she actually signed a contract as an architect. It's mind-boggling.
And she's not an architect.
And she's not an architect.
The woman who rolls around on the floor in yellow pants. That's not what architects do.
Here it is. Here it is.
Yeah, look at the very bottom. Do you see it says, okay, what they do when you get something through FOIA, they are allowed to white out people's signatures. For identity theft, they don't want you to see people's signatures. But if you look at the very bottom, it says owner, College of DuPage, and then it says designer, Hurricane Graphics, and the signature's whited out, but that's her name.
And look at above where it says 12.6, architect shall certify that it is not barred, blah, 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 architect. And then up at 2.7, look further up at the top, the architect shall. So this contract is for an architect to sign the contract.
And look at Article 13, Megan, scope of the agreement. This agreement represents the entity and integrated agreement between the owner and the architect.
Yep. And look at her signing, and here she signed her name. You can't see the signature, but you can see that she has printed her name underneath the signature. So her signature is there. It's just on the original one, which we can't see because they've redacted it. But she has signed this contract. I mean, of all the crazy things, though, to sue somebody over, this one is one of the worst I've ever seen. Because
here's my point again.
All you have to do is show this to a judge.
That some people might not think right away, but you know this. Anyone who has ever dealt with an entity like the College at DuPage, if they're doing a catering event, they have a catering contract. If they're doing, fireworks or something, they have a contract with the fireworks vendor. Megan, they are not using architect contracts when they're dealing with the caterer or the fireworks vendor or whatever, or the wrestling team needs new uniforms. They do a contract with the vendor for that. They do contracts all the time. So my point is, it is not common practice for an entity like this to be using an architect contract for someone who is not an architect. And her excuse seems to be, oh, well, they just decided to do that because they had the architect contract laying around and, they needed me to sign something, so we just signed this. That doesn't make any sense. This is only allowed to be used for an architect. The very front of this contract, you don't have it up on the screen, but the very first page, it says really big, 7 or 8 times, including in, 50-point font, they have on the very first page saying American Institute of Architecture, architect contract. And it says repeatedly, this is an agreement between the College of DuPage and the architect, over and over again. This woman is out of her cotton picking mind if she thinks that people are going to believe her that she didn't represent herself as an architect. Even the worst jury.
Really upset. She's also really upset that that they're suggesting there was anything improper about her getting the contract. Now I ask you, does a person who sits on the board of the foundation of the College of DuPage, should a person sitting on that board get a contract for any amount of money for that college?
No, and actually the College of DuPage, they did an internal review, and they decided that she had received preferential treatment, that she was not supposed to.
Of course she did. Of course she did. That's the way it works in Chicago. She's also suing because John and Kirk used the term pay to play. Can you believe this? This is the very definition of pay to play.
Megan, that's something that I know people might not understand what that means, pay to play. Can you explain that to them?
Well, in Chicago, you must pay in order to play. And it is that way everywhere you go in Chicago. Okay, it doesn't matter if you're in the suburbs or the hinterlands of Illinois, you will pay to play here. And what that means is if you want, let's say you're a landscaper, and if you want to landscape Michigan Avenue, you don't just get to put in your contract and the best price wins. That's not how it works. What you do is, whichever Democrat is currently in power, and it's always Democrats, you must give at least $10,000 or more to their campaign. Once you have given $10,000 or more to their campaign, then you get put on their preferential list for contracts. They may take contracts from other landscapers, but yours will go right to the top because you donated your play money. And that's what it means, pay to play. Now you're going to earn that money back because your Michigan Avenue contract is millions of dollars. But with the knowledge that when you get that money, you're going to funnel some of it back into the guy who gave you the contract's campaign. All right, everybody knows that this is how it works. Everybody knows. Now this woman, she says this is not pay to play, or she has no idea what that means. I totally disagree, and here's why. And this is my opinion, and I'm allowed to have it, and she can't sue me for having an opinion.
Slap. I'm gonna slap you.
I'm gonna slap you. Here's why it's pay to play. She was not on the board of the foundation before she got the contract. She got the initial contract, and then she was put on the board. Do you see how she paid to play? I mean, so basically they're getting her on the board. She got this big sweet contract, and then several months later, they gave her another one. Something went wrong there. Something is not right there. So here's this woman who comes around with the Hurricane graphics company that doesn't even have a website. Honestly, it does not have a website.
Oh, tell them about her offices.
Oh, I don't know anything about her offices. Where are her offices? Oh,
this is great. So if you look up Hurricane graphics, now remember you have to misspell the word hurricane. So, Herricane. Look it up, and one of the first things that will come up is the little Google thing that gives you the address, and it shows an address on this Roosevelt Road. And it looks like an abandoned strip mall, and the address that she claims is the office for this Hurricane graphics, graphics firm. It looks like no one has been there in years. There's no sign, saying, that this is a graphic design business, and it looks all dark inside like it's an abandoned, empty place. There's a picture of it right there on the Google thing. And people who have been there, who have taken pictures of it, it's the same thing, that it looks like it's just an abandoned office. So I don't understand how that place is legitimate business. And that sounds fishy too. The Washington Times, they reported on this. There's an article, Illinois Policy Institute has this up. And in this article, called $95 million in hidden spending revealed at College of DuPage. This was written by Austin Berg in October of 2014. The Washington Times awarded the school with its Golden Hammer Award for egregious examples of government waste, fraud, and abuse. and detailed the college's crony dealings with leadership. The College of DuPage spent $435,365 on purchases from Hurricane Graphics since 2009. Carla Burkhardt, the owner of the graphic design company, is listed as a member of the College of DuPage Foundation's board of directors. Okay, so this article is from 2014, and she had racked up $435,000 or so from the College of DuPage. Then that Illinois Leaks, or the Illinois Review article, remember that was like $630-some thousand that it said that she had received. So look at that timeline there. So she's been getting these, you know, sweetheart deals. The place that she says is her place of business, her office, looks like it's abandoned. She has no website. She's supposed to be a graphic design company. You want to tell me
where the money's going? I want to know where all that money went. She should be audited. Because
well, you want to tell me that you're a graphic design company, you don't have a portfolio online that people can see your graphic design work?
No, it's totally fishy, and it's completely fishy. It deserves an investigation. She ought to be totally investigated, audited by the IRS. Where did that money go? What did she do with it? Because here's where pay to play comes in also. They don't just give you money for nothing. So they find somebody who's got a, you know, sham business or whatever, and they funnel the money to them for some reason. Now, we don't know what that reason is yet. Is she giving that money back to the College of DuPage? Is the president getting a kickback? Who's getting a kickback? The kickback is always the question, right? Because in Chicago, that's what pay to play means. Somebody's getting a kickback. It's like a money laundering scheme. So you take money from the College of DuPage and you give it to some sham operation, and they funnel that money back to somebody else. Is it a politician? Is it a College of DuPage, or is it a DuPage County politician? Who is it? Who is getting the kickback? I want Carla Burkhardt investigated by the IRS. I want to know where all that money went. Where did the $600,000 go? I want to know where she spent it. I want to know how she spent it, because this makes no sense. And anybody with a brain can look and see what's going on at College of DuPage and say, this is shady, typical Chicago politics right here. Typical Chicago pay to play. And there's a big story here. A woman who would sue for $8 million is desperate to keep this under wraps.
Well, and I tried Googling, you know, on the Googles on the internet. I typed it in. I tried looking for examples of any graphic design work that this Carla Burkhardt did for that College of DuPage. So it looks like she had some kind of, they had some kind of a 9/11 exhibit, you know, about September 11th, and I think artifacts from the site or whatever. And there's a picture of her sitting there posing, you know, in kind of a weird position again. She likes to do that apparently.
No, I'll get that picture back up. No problem.
You know, next to, you know, steel that was part of the trade center, she's sitting there posing like in a weird, what she thinks is like a sexy pose, it seems, which was inappropriate. But behind her apparently are these graphics she did for the, you know, September 11th thing. And Megan, all it looks like is just like a blue sky with like clouds and like the words, you know, remembering 9/11, something like that written. So if those are the kind of things that she is producing for College of DuPage, I don't see how that costs $630,000. I don't understand.
That's the other thing I want to see. I want to see all her work. Where is the signage? Where is it? I want to see it.
What I said, you know, if you run a graphic design company, don't you have a website that says portfolio and then people can see? That's normal. It's the year 2016.
In all her yellow pants glory. Here she is.
Always posing weirdly like that. Like it's always something, some variant of this kind of weird that she thinks is a sexy pose. And this is the woman that got all that money, but it doesn't seem like anything she could create would be worth $630,000. Where did that money go?
I want to know where the money went to. She ought to be investigated. So instead, so this is how she fights back. She's fighting back against the allegation that she is involved in some wrongdoing, which I think it's pretty clear there's some wrongdoing here. But, you know, she's fighting back by suing John Kraft and Kirk Allen of the Edgar County Watchdogs. However, Oh, tell them about the ridiculous claim in the lawsuit that says that Edgar County Watchdogs is not for informing the public. I don't know how anybody comes up with that.
Oh yeah, so she says,
This is crazy. First of all, the Edgar County Watchdogs have run. These guys are amazing. They spend every single minute of their spare time going to public meetings to make sure that public officials are following the law. These guys are the closest thing to Superman we really have. They are standing up for law and justice. They are standing up for the little people in Illinois who have no say over this stuff. They're standing up for our rights. They're standing up against public officials who are breaking the law. They have been doing this for years. They have been featured in the Chicago Tribune. Their work has been featured all over on Breitbart.
Forbes magazine wrote about
Forbes
them.
magazine. They have taken down entire boards with 2 entire boards with citizens arrest now, and that have been upheld by law enforcement because they have caught them red-handed. The Edgar County Watchdogs are public heroes, and they have been reporting on Illinois corruption for years. And this lawsuit, this idiot woman in the yellow pants rolling around on the floor, actually has the nerve in the lawsuit to say that their website is just to create public hysteria. Would you read that part, Kevin? Because it's laughable.
Oh, that part is really funny. Let me say first that, once again, this is this lawyer of theirs that I don't know, or hers. I don't understand how this person can get away with writing these things, but you can write anything in a lawsuit. And the way that this works, it's really shady too, because they say this stuff in a lawsuit and you don't have to prove it right away. So you can file a lawsuit against someone, you can say any crazy thing that you want to say. And it won't be until, discovery way down the line that, it could show that wasn't even true. So there really is an advantage when someone's a plaintiff in something, because you can just file this and make all kind of wild claims against someone. And here they are, they're claiming that the Edgar County Watchdogs, they're not really trying to educate anyone or inform anyone. They just want to create this big hysteria. So the point that I want to get across is this whole College of DuPage issue. This is not something that, people sitting waiting for the bus or sitting around the coffee maker at work are really going to be talking about, because it's so complicated. This is not an issue that is based on like hysteria, as her lawyer claimed. Oh, they're trying to just create hysteria. Well, if that's what they're trying to do, they're really doing a bad job, because
nobody's up in arms over it at all.
It's really hard to get people to care.
Wait. Honestly, though, the thing that bothered me the most was them saying that the Edgar County Illinois Leaks, which is their website, is not to educate the public. Kevin, how much have we learned from John and Kirk? What do we know them?
John and Kirk, John Allen and
John Kraft, Kirk Allen.
Gosh, yeah.
I do that all the time too.
John Kraft and Kirk Allen, they're the best guys ever. These guys are superstars. And
we learned think about the information we have learned from them, and how much they've changed our investigations, and how much they have educated us in how to deal with these people and on the law. I learned everything I know right now. I learned from the Edgar County Watchdogs and from Illinois Leaks. Am I right?
Especially about Open Meetings Act. You and I, we knew a little bit about FOIA, Freedom of Information Act requests, before we found out about the Edgar County Watchdogs. But really, the Open Meetings Act, these guys, I would say that they are the state's experts on the Open Meetings Act. I think that they are as qualified on the Open Meetings Act, in my opinion, as people at the Attorney General's office, because they go to all these meetings and they're always reviewing it and looking for the things that are being done wrong. So these guys are incredible. But the point I want to make is their articles, the articles that they write. If you read any one of their articles, boy, they're uploading PDFs of the stuff that they got from the public body.
It's always sourced. Every single time they've ever written anything, it comes with pages and pages of documents.
Right, and that's my point about the whole thing of them saying, oh, you're trying to instill hysteria. Well, if you read an Edgar County Watchdog article, it has more citations and sources than like a grad student's thesis project. Right? Am I right?
Yes.
How can someone read one of their articles and think it's like inflammatory?
Being incited to hysteria?
Incited to hysteria as you're clicking links to see documents and contracts and meticulously highlighted. They took the time to highlight the word architect every time it appeared.
Right. Also, I mean, anything that, I mean, they are inspiring. I'll give them that. They inspire people to pay more attention to what their elected officials are doing. But this claim that they're somehow inciting people to hysteria is just crazy.
It's crazy because what really happened was the Edgar County Watchdogs found this and found that there was a problem. And Megan, someone at the prosecutor's office thought enough was there, enough smoke was there, that subpoenas were issued to look for the fire. So this is what this Burkhardt woman is upset about, that what she had done wrong was discovered, and then people started looking into it and investigating it. And she didn't like that. So it's really not, you know, public hysteria has been created. What it is that the whistle was blowing on what she was doing. And
right. There's smoke and fire.
Right.
Also, it should be noted that this woman rolling around on the floor in yellow pants, Carla Burkhardt, she also named in her lawsuit Adam Andrzejewski, who is no stranger to controversy and lawsuits for defamation.
Oh, Adam Andrzejewski, he is another hero of our state. That guy is a good guy. He ran for governor, if people don't know. I think he would have made a fantastic governor. But she also sued him too.
Now he runs Open the Books, and he investigates all these public bodies for misspending the public's money. And he has found millions of dollars in misspending and fraud. He is public enemy number one for public.
He even got, who was it? He got some kind of grant for millions of dollars that they shouldn't have gotten a grant, this one entity. It may have been College of Dupage because
it probably was College of Dupage. Apparently, the College of Dupage is overrun with rats.
Right, and so this Carla woman, she's upset that this has all been, you know, discovered. And what is that term that you heard recently was coined? That cry bully.
Cry bully.
Example of a cry bully. What is that exactly?
Well, it's when somebody who is, you know, it's kind of like it's been used for anybody who, I'm trying to explain this correctly. It first came up when the Halloween costume fiasco was happening on campuses, where anyone dressed up as an Indian or a Mexican, you know, the students were crying about how offended they were, and they wanted presidents fired and professors who supported it fired. And so in order to protect their little feelings, they want to go after your First Amendment rights and crush them. So they become not cry babies, but cry bullies, because their crying leads to the destruction of other people's First Amendment rights. That is what this woman is doing. That is what SLAPP, people who file SLAPPs are doing. They are crying that, oh, I'm being oppressed. I'm being, you know, they're being mean to me. And so because I feel like I'm, you know, they're being mean to me, I have every right to take away their First Amendment rights. Well, that is not the way it works in America. If you want to behave that way, then go somewhere else where there is no First Amendment right, and the government can drag you out of your bed at midnight and put you in a lockup for the rest of your life. That's not the way it works here. We don't punish people for speaking out. We don't punish people for having opinions, even if they're ugly, even if they're mean, even if they're, you know, they hurt your little feelings. That's not what America is about. America is about more free speech. So if you have a problem with something someone is saying about you, let me tell you, Carla Burkhardt, what you should have done while you were rolling around on the floor in your yellow pants. If your little feelings were hurt about what John and Kirk said, then you should have started your own website, which you obviously need since Hurricane Graphics doesn't have one, and write more speech telling your side of the story, and go to the media outlets and tell the media why you're not involved in fraud, which it appears that you are. That is the answer to speech you don't like. It is not to file frivolous lawsuits for $8 million. I wonder where she got that number, because I don't think she's worth $8 million. Let's just put that out there. $8 million to silence somebody's free speech rights. That is totalitarianism.
Oh, and then about that, you know, that her business, her supposed business is Hurricane Graphics. Now, I looked on the Secretary of State's website, and if you type in Hurricane Graphics, it does show a business license, and it shows her as the owner. But once again, it gives that address on Roosevelt Road that looks like it's an abandoned strip mall. So my question is, how can she claim in this lawsuit that the Edgar County Watchdogs and Andy Adjevsky and these other people writing about her has damaged her business and made her unable to get clients. What is she doing to get clients now? Like if right now, if I had $100,000 to spend on
graphics, are you going to go with somebody who doesn't even have a website showing their work?
Right. She doesn't even have a website. So how is she getting these clients? And then, so the Google, it lists the phone number. I called the phone number to see, because I was curious to see if she had anything anywhere that would show her work. And I was going to ask, can I see your portfolio? Do you have an Instagram? Do you have a Twitter? Do you have a Facebook? Anything? And the number just rings and rings. So it doesn't even go to a voicemail.
Oh my gosh. Do you know what this reminds me of? Here's another thing that's in Chicago that I don't know if this is just a Chicago thing or if this happens across the country, but it's a big deal here. We call them ghost employment. And a ghost employment is like a ghost payroll. I don't know if this is something that happens in Chicago constantly. And it's where you put your friends and relatives on your payroll list, but they don't actually show up to work. Michelle Obama had one of these jobs. She got paid $300,000 a year for one of these ghost payroll jobs in Chicago, where she never actually kept an office
at the hospital.
At the hospital, she never showed up. She wasn't there, but she got this huge salary anyway. And then they say it was for consulting or something. Well, there's no proof that she ever did any of it. The ghost payroll is huge here. It's absolutely huge. And this sounds so much like that, where this sounds like a dummy company that has been, filed with the state and so that it's there and it looks legitimate. But then who are her other clients? Has anyone ever hired Hurricane Graphics before at the College of DuPage? Boy,
claiming $8 million in damages or whatever. But as I'm saying, like if I legitimately had $100,000 right now to spend on some big graphics project and I really wanted to hire her, because I really love how she rolls around in the yellow pants. And I think rolling around in the floor, like Farrah Fawcett did for Playboy, like that's the mark of a great graphic designer right there. I would not be able to hire her because there's no way to contact her business. Am I missing something?
No. What is this is a very good question. I mean, how is it that she's not taking phone calls, and does she have no employees? Is she the only employee? And if that's the case, have you ever heard of a graphics designer who made $600,000 as one employee? I have a friend who's a graphics designer who can barely keep a job because companies cut their graphic design departments first when they need to. He has never made anywhere near that kind of money for graphic design, and he's very good. And I've seen his portfolio. Like, what the heck kind of graphic design is she doing for over $500,000?
This is all so fishy. It's fishy, fishy, fishy. It is.
Yeah, well, okay, so you can read the entirety of this lawsuit, read Kevin's remarks on it on hillbuzz.org, and it really is, it'll make you shake your head. It really will. I mean, it's an incredible example of how a public official can really harass private individuals who are simply trying to bring attention to matters of public interest, like the Edgar County Watchdogs. So I think that's all the time we have for today. We're gonna say goodbye for now, but we'll be back next week, and I'm sure we'll have more as this unfolds. But thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, I'm gonna put on my yellow pants and roll around on the floor.
Let's all put on our yellow pants and roll around on the floor some. Have a good day.